Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors tgstore.co.uk.
The home of premium sportswear, including Gore bikewear, Gore running wear and Aquasphere wetsuits. You can get 10% off with the code OxygenAddict10.
Our 2017 podcast charity appeal,
which is raising money for the family of Rob's friend Mark Moose Mills.
You can go to justgiving.com/crowdfunding/podcast to make a donation there. And also, we're sponsored by the Holcombe Half Triathlon.
And you can use the code FREEMALET or FREEFEMALET to get a free high-quality t-shirt when you enter the Holcombe Half.
Coolio. And welcome to the show. How are you doing, Helen? Have you had a good weekend?
Yeah, I've had a good weekend, Rob. Did the Open 5 yesterday in Shropshire.
Was it wet and cold by any chance?
If I tell you that when we pulled up in the car park of the bike hire shop, I was like, I could just save myself the money and not even go and hire a bike because
I don't, as bad as that.
I don't want to get on it.
Sit in the car.
The snow started falling at about 7:30.
Oh man, really?
Yeah. And we pulled up into the car park, and it was just it was so dark outside, and just chucking it down. And then I thought, okay, I'll go and get it. Worst case scenario, it's going to be an expensive bike hire just to go to like one point. Because you've got to go to at least one, haven't you? And I thought, I'll just go and run for a couple of hours. That's fine. I don't mind running so much in the cold and the rain and the snow. But the idea of going on a bike, oh my goodness. And then at registration, you can start looking at maps. And I just was not interested. I was like, I don't even want to go out there. I was so scared.
Bless you.
Yeah, I said to someone, I'm absolutely crapping my pants. Probably
Is it because of the weather? Because of the snow and the whiteout? And...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And you could look, so the actual area, if you don't know this part of the UK, well, I don't want to tell you too much about it because actually I love it and it'll stop you going there. But anyway, Church Stretton is just beautiful. And it's a little town surrounded by absolutely stunning hills, and the Longmynd on one side, and then the South Shropshire Hills around the other. And you could there was snow. Honestly, it was white everywhere. I'm like, oh my god. But eventually the snow stopped, and they said you can do your transition. You can have everything in the boot of your car. And when they say that, they're thinking, oh, we better. You don't have to leave everything outside. That it's like not the best. But as soon as I got on the bike, it was actually okay, and we managed to ride we did 2.5 hours on the bike.
That's pretty good in that kind of weather conditions. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I was quite proud of that. And I think we ran for about an hour and a half. So in total we were out for 4 hours, which honestly at the beginning of the day I really just didn't even want to be there, and I thought this is awful. And obviously I enjoyed it by the end, but I thought 4 hours we'll finish there happy rather than do much longer and get beyond the point of being happy, if that makes sense.
How cold was it? Were you really...
It was like 3 degrees. My feet were very, very cold because straight away they got soaking wet, going through like a ford. So it's like,
you didn't have waterproof shoes on?
No.
Okay.
It's probably cold. It's probably cold being...
I can see how this is going.
Yeah. Oh, and then, honestly, it's all about having the right gear, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. It's so miserable when it's 3 degrees and snow and then you haven't got the right shoes on.
Well, I was biking in my trail shoes because I was like, I'm not clipping in on a mountain bike. I'm so bad. Honestly, I'm so bad. So they just got soaking wet, and then my friend was like, "Well, maybe change it if have you not got spare running shoes." I was like, "No, I just thought I'd run in these."
Oh man.
Underprepared, Rob. But they
lived
did thaw
through
out.
it. That's the thing. You had a great time.
Yep. And
That's so awesome.
And I feel like I accomplished something because I was so scared.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
And
you
so
face
out
your
of my
fears and do
comfort zone.
something. Like, it properly is terrifying when you set off with just a little map and a mountain bike. And I remember Andy Heaps and me riding around and looking at each other and going, because we got passed by Warren on the way dead, and we were like, right, follow him for a bit. That's like the worst we can do. Follow Warren. And we got totally dropped on a hill. And then we were like, were you looking at the map as we did that? we had literally no idea where we were. We found a stray dog and we were like, well, we should probably take the dog back to its owner or something. We don't know where we are. And it was just an excuse to find this dog's owner at a cottage and go, could you please tell us where we are? So that was relatively, there were some roads and stuff around, so I can't imagine how it must have been just being up on the top of the Mind in that weather. Good on you.
Thanks. Yeah, it was good. There is one more this year, which is the North Yorkshire Moors on the 2nd of April 2017. So if you are in the UK and you're into that kind of thing, a bit of mountain biking, bit of trail running, map reading, I guarantee you will have fun if I can do it, honestly.
Yeah.
Openadventure.com.
If you haven't entered one, go and do one. We're not sponsored by them, but they are blooming brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah, really, really are. And it's just such a chilled out vibe and a great way to get in, for 4 or 5 hours. And Rob, guess what? Out the female pairs, with an hour to spare, we didn't even come last.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, we were 2/3 of the way down the results.
I love that that's where the bar was set from somebody who's almost podiumed at an international Ironman event. I didn't finish last.
Yeah, I didn't finish last, so I was quite happy with that.
Good for you, Helen.
Thanks. Anyway.
Dear. We should probably do the show, shouldn't we, rather than talking about our weekends?
I think so. Shall we start off with some results?
Yes, let's do that. Let's start off with our results, sponsored by tgstore.co.uk. And do you know what I thought we could do today, Helen? I think we can do some online shopping.
Okay.
You and me are going to go to the TG store right now, and they've got a sale section on, and I'm going to pick you out some clothing to protect you from the elements, because you clearly need help. Otherwise, you're going to die the next time you go outdoors. So I'm thinking we're going to select for you a pair of Gore Tool SO gloves, which are currently 50% off in very natty black and red. They look like they keep you nice and dry.
Yep.
There's a Contest Thermo Lady jersey with 60% off, so that's reduced to 28 quid. That'll keep you cozy. And do you know what? That Alpex Thermo Lady jersey is an absolute bargain, mate. 36 quid with 60% off for you there. If that's in your size, you should buy that.
I think there's a lot of stuff on that I should buy.
There's a lot of stuff here with 60% off. The windstopper jackets with 60% off. Come on, Hells, you need to fill your boots, mate, and get some stuff actually in there. This isn't just an advertising feature. This is let's kit Helen out for the rest of the winter right here.
Rob, I'm telling you,
60 quid for the Alpex jacket.
I know there are some Billy Bargs on there. tgstore.co.uk/outlet-clearance. Just go and have a moochie, because there's some good-looking stuff there.
Yeah, we are sponsored by them, but Helen, that jacket in white and black is in your size as well, mate. Go on. And the arm zip off. You cannot go wrong for 60 quid with that.
I'm all for the arm zipping off jackets.
Nice. All right, and remember, you can also go to their site and you can register to win a jacket, a £100 jacket of your choice, by going to tgstore.co.uk/Oxygen Addict. All you've got to do is put your email address in there and you get entered into the free monthly draw. There's not that many people entered, according to the store's owner, Andy. So you might be in with a good chance if you get in there and get your email address entered. All right, so there's our word from the sponsors. Let's move on to the news, Hells. Let's move on to the results. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So should we start in Abu Dhabi?
We've got to start in Abu Dhabi with a win for Gomez, haven't we?
Oh, yep. So Javier Gomez, on his return to the World Triathlon Series, took out the win at Abu Dhabi.
He did a good job as well, but I tell you what, it looked like young Tom Bishop. He had him for a while there, didn't he? I was really impressed with him. He didn't just sit there and get intimidated by Gomez. He saw the pace slackened off and he put a burst in about, I think it was about halfway through, wasn't it? Managed to get a gap of about 10 metres. And I've got so much respect for that, because it reminded me of watching Brownlee on the front of the Olympics in 2008?
Yeah, Beijing.
At Beijing, and he had a go then, and you were like, go on, lad, that's fearless. So Good for you, Mr. Bishop.
That yeah, and it was the previous best that he had done was fifth, Rob, back in Edmonton, and it's really good, isn't it, to have a Brit other than the Brownies on the podium?
Yeah, definitely. And the Bishops have been coming through for a lot of years. I was on a
Yeah,
coaching course years ago with his mum, and it's so weird when you've sat next to somebody for 3 weekends and she's talked about her sons, and she was obviously really passionate about them. And she was saying, we really think they could be world class. And there's part of you goes, that's brilliant that a mum believes in her kids. And there's part of you that thinks, I've yet to meet a parent that doesn't believe their kid could be world class one day. But there was something about the way she spoke about them that made you think, yeah, okay. So it's so good to see them making that jump to the biggest stage, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And Mrs. Bishop was imagine is a very, very, very proud mum.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. I should drop her an email. I've got her email address around somewhere still. See if we can get them on the show, hey?
You should hook us up, Rob. Hook us up. So
Hook us up. See if we can
Javier,
chase her down after the show.
Javier Gomez won in 152.31 ahead of Tom Bishop in 152.45, and then Vincent Luis was third in 153. So Mario Mola, who we mentioned last week, finished in eighth in 154.
Yeah, some big scalps Bishop's taken down there, aren't they, as well?
Exactly.
Richard Murray, Mola, that's going to do. Henry Schumann as well. Massive amounts for his confidence going forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely huge. And Ali Brownie wasn't there because he's training. I think he's obviously doing training for the
I
half
think it's the
Ironman stuff.
70.3s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Johnny is injured, so he wasn't there either.
Okay. How about that women's race, though? That finish in the women's race.
I saw the sprint finish there. Wasn't that impressive? So Andrea
Wowzers.
Hewitt just got Jodie Stimpson on the line. So I think they were running pretty close together, weren't they, for most of that
Yeah.
10k? And then Hewitt with about 100 meters to go just went for it, and you can see their faces of Andrea Hewitt breaking the tape, and then Jodie literally half a
Right
meter
there.
behind.
Half a metre behind, given the same time. Yeah. And there's a great quote from Jodie actually on Slow Twitch that said, the amount of work we did all day, I'm just ecstatic it was me and Andrea that got on the podium, and if I'm going to lose a sprint finish, I'm glad it was to Andrea today. Which, you've got to take your hat off for that sportswomanship, haven't you?
Yeah, well, she also handed Andrea Hewitt a drink, I think, at one of the
Yeah.
aid stations.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was quality sportswomanship, wasn't it?
Yeah, honestly. And we've had Jodie on the show. If you haven't heard it, go back and listen to it. Brilliant, brilliant person, and yeah, great sports person.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Love her. We'll have her back on.
We will. So Andrea Hewitt took the win in 2:03.46. As you said, Rob, Jodie Stimpson was given the same time, and then Sarah Village of Austria was third, just about 7 seconds behind those two.
Cool stuff. Now then, the big long-distance race of the weekend was, of course, Ironman New Zealand down in Taupo, which we've been excitedly and eagerly awaited. It's always kind of the season opener for Ironman, isn't it, every year? And our big question was whether Cam Brown could repeat and whether... my mind's gone blank.
Meredith Kessler was going to get win number 6, yeah.
Yeah, and neither of them could, unfortunately. But wow, a day of racing, hey?
I know. Did you manage to follow any of it, Rob?
I saw little bits of it during the day, yeah, and I was getting tweeted updates by people, so I was out and about, but people will let me know what was going on for sure. I didn't manage to see any of the footage of it, which was a shame because people said it was quite good this year.
Well, I didn't really. I saw a few Twitter updates before I went to sleep, and then you had that whole waking up to find out who had won. And yeah, I mean, Braden Curry had a really, really impressive win. Cam Brown still ran some kind of... Did he do like
2:42, I think he ran?
He did a... 2:42.
Well, he was quite a long way down on the bike, but I think that's because Terenzo Bozzoni absolutely smashed it on the bike. He rode 4:37, which on that course, on New Zealand chip-sealed roads, it is not a fast course at all, so he put like big time into everybody else, including about, I think it gave him about 10 or 12 minutes, something like that, over Cam Brown at that point. But he didn't manage to hang on during the run this time, because we've talked about the stellar races he's had over at Western Australia and stuff recently.
Yeah.
But you've got to respect Cam Brown putting a 2:42 out of the bag when he's running from so far back down through the field, haven't you?
I just think it's incredible. It shows
He's an absolute legend.
Yeah, what an impressive athlete he is, doesn't it?
Yeah, so all the way through the field to finish in second place. Men's overall winner Braden Curry had taken out the coast to coast race as well, hadn't he? Was it 2 weeks before? Oh no, it was a runners up. Sorry.
Yeah.
At the coast to coast, not the winner of the coast to coast. But still, it's amazing to see him making the transition from that to sort of flat out Ironman racing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. What an athlete.
Yeah, cool. So, men's results, and then we'll go over to the ladies' race. Braden Curry takes it out in 8:20. Cam Brown runs through into second in 8:24, and Cyril Viano in 8:25. With friend of the show and donator to our podcast appeal, Marco Albert, in 8:30 in fourth place. Terenzo down in sixth. So there's the men's race, and the real drama was happening in the ladies' race, wasn't it?
I think there was a lot of drama going on in the women's race, Rob. So obviously Meredith Kessler was going for her sixth straight win in Taupo. She didn't quite manage to pull that off. She ended up finishing third. Jocelyn McCauley was the winner ahead of Laura Siddall and then Meredith Kessler, as I was saying. But Annabelle Luxford was in there, Emma Billen was in there, and the five of them, or there were five who pretty much got off the bike at the same time. And yeah, we'll hear a little bit more from Laura Siddall about exactly what happened. We'll hear
quite a lot more about it, won't we? We've got the blow-by-blow account. Helen texted me and said, shall I try and get Laura on? And I was like, yes, you can get a few minutes from her. And we got a full interview. So we've got a blow-by-blow account, and bless her, she sounds like she's still a little fatigued from the race, because you get like the proper inside thoughts from her, don't you?
Laura hadn't had a coffee, and it was first thing Monday morning in New Zealand, and she obviously hadn't really slept the night before the race. She hadn't really slept the night after the race, because you just don't sleep the night after the race, do you?
Yeah.
And so she did say, please apologise for my long answers, but actually,
I love it though, because you get that proper sort of, there's one point where she says, I hope my coach doesn't listen to this because he's going to kill me. And it's like the proper inner workings of what goes on in her head during the race, and how she tries to get other people to work with her, and she encourages someone to run. It's brilliant, I think.
Yeah, that bit.
Hats off to you, H. It's a great interview.
And I thought the comment from Yvonne van Vleuten is brilliant.
Yeah. Let's not spoil it. Let's leave that.
No. Exactly.
Well worth listening to.
Yeah. So Meredith Kessler
right, so
took the swim out, Rob. I was going to say, got out the water first. They had, comfortable gap on the likes of Siddall and Yvonne van Vleuten, and then Annabelle Luxford and Meredith Kessler had about a 5-minute lead at some point on the bike, ahead of like Laura and Jocelyn McCauley and Van Vleuten. And then we'll hear from Laura how she just sort of spotted them at the end and was like, right, I'm getting off this bike first. And then just bit by bit we'll hear how that final marathon went, and it's cool. So keep listening for Laura's interview.
There you go. I like these little teasers. Keep listening for later on. That's cool.
So it was won by Jocelyn McCauley, 9:09, Laura Siddall, 9:21, and Meredith Kessler in third in 9:27.
Cool stuff. All right, and another race we're going to mention this week is the Alton Park Duathlon. That's a qualifier for the British team for the World Age Group Duathlon Championships. So, starting with the sprint, Hels, do you want to do the results for those first?
Yep. So Lewis Timmins took it out ahead of Phil Wiley and Luke Pollard in the men's race, and in the women's race, Ellie Campbell got the win, a nice, comfortable few minutes ahead of Laura Smith and Erica Booth.
In the standard race, in the ladies' race, Naomi Kira Wright from Manchester Tri Club takes out the win in 2:01.
Listen to the show, Rob.
Listen to the show. Hi, Naomi. Well done, mate. Michelle Carson in second and Rachel Wiseman in third. Over on the men's race, it was taken out by Bo Smith in 1:43, Richard Anderson in second in 1:44, and Paul Hawkins, good to see him racing again, in 1:44 as well. So only 10 seconds between second and third. In fourth place there, mate, we've got Matt Botterill having a crack at the old duathlon. And first up, it looks like his running's really improved because he was only a couple of minutes down on the leaders on that first sort of 9K run. So good work on the running there, Matt. But his bike split, 53:30 on the bike for what is not far off 40K, Helen. Next fastest time was Bo Smith at 56:42. And then Paul Hawkins in 57 minutes. So he's like 3.5 clear minutes ahead of people there. And Bo Smith himself is an absolute axe on the bike. He's an absolute rock star. And I'll give you a tip here. Bo's being tipped as one of the guys if they do, if they introduce this super short distance,
yes.
What's it called? Relay racing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bo is an incredibly fast sort of 800-meter runner and never quite sort of seemed to make that transition to the 10K distance.
Mm-hmm.
But from memory, he was like a 2-minute flat or a 1:58 800-meter runner when he was a kid. He came down to one of the local sprint races that I did back when I was still racing, and he just cleaned our clocks. He came by me on the bike like, honestly, like he was on a moped, and I was like, okay, he's 16 and he was on a borrowed bike, he was on a borrowed time trial bike. It's like, okay, there goes the future. So it's great to see him doing really well at sort of national standard races, and I'd love it if they introduced this sort of relay race distance with a shorter distance running, because it'll give different athletes with different strengths an opportunity to shine on an international stage.
Absolutely. And Rob, I liked Matt Bottrell's comment afterwards. He tweeted, "I have to admit, duathlon is brutal. One of the hardest things I've done, but for some crazy reason, I'm enjoying it. # making progress."
Yeah, well, I tell you what, he's only got to cut a minute off that second run of his, and all of a sudden he's right up there within a shout of the win. So top work, Botty. Top work. Right then, where should we go next? Should we go for a little bit of Coach's Couch action?
Yep, let's do that.
Let's jump over to that now. Before we actually ask the question, we're sponsored by our charity appeal, which is open until the 15th of March and which is raising money for the family of my friend Mark Moose Mills. And do you know what, Hells? Since last week, we've raised over another 500 quid, which I think is pretty damn amazing. So
that's incredible.
It really is. Thank you very much to everybody who's kindly donated over the last week. And because I'm so pleased and happy and thankful to all of you, I'm going to read your names out as a way of saying thanks. So people who've donated since last week's show: Ashley Stewart, Mark McBride, Claire Sutcliffe, Leanne Parry, Scott Salmon, Isabel, Ruth Purbrook, Alan Garr, Martin Rutherford, Sam Greenhall, Dane Stanley, Matt Smith-Lilly, Nick Pocock, Shane Wilson, Simon Quinn, Gareth Beck, Lee Sport, Magnus Kuhn, Dawn Parr, Rachel Leach, Rob Osborne, and Dave Moulding. We really, really appreciate all your generosity for donating to this. If you want to donate, if you donate £20 or more, you get a ticket into our free prize draw to win. Money can't buy triathlon prizes, so we've got a signed kit from all manner of people. So I've been relentlessly tweeting and Facebooking, and I'll make no apology for that because I'm ruthlessly trying to get the money in before the cut-off on the 15th of March. So thanks very much if you've donated, and if you still want to, there's still time.
Good stuff.
Right, should we go to our question, Hells?
Yeah, I was going to say, Rachel Joyce's kit turned up this week, didn't it?
And Lucy Gossage as well, yeah. So do you know what? Rachel, bless her, she sent an email, said, "I'm really sorry I've not managed to get around to sending you the kit yet," but she sent a photo through and she's put it in the post, so it's on its way as we speak. Lucy again hers has arrived, and she sent a note that said better late than never. And you just think, I'm just so grateful to these professional triathletes who've got so much going on and still manage to find the time to do it, sign the kit, put it in the post, get to the post office. We all know what a pain in the backside that is to do. And I've had a couple of messages through from other people as well who've said they'll donate and then have just said, "Oh mate, I'm so sorry, I said I'll do this and I haven't managed to find the time." So don't stress about it. I'm really grateful for everybody that has managed to do that. And if you haven't managed to get around to it, honestly, don't worry about it. We really appreciate just the sentiment, and we'll chase you down for the next appeal. Don't you worry.
Absolutely. Right, so Simon on Twitter, SS Siddall, says, how about advice for people who are only training with a heart rate monitor? That's me, Rob.
Yeah, so sorry about this. Simon very rightly made the point that I started to talk about this in a previous edition and then got drifted off onto talking about power meters.
We don't all have power. We don't all have power.
Don't all have power. So my first advice is buy a power meter. No, but secondly, like the general advice I think for this goes for heart rate meters as it does for power meters, which is if you're going to use the piece of equipment, use it properly. And so first thing you need to do is get out there and do some testing and know what you're going to relate your zones back to. So there's loads of different ways of doing this out there, and I don't think anyone is any better than any other as long as you're confident in a way that the method that you're using works for you. And there are, multiple different versions of the training zones and different ways to work out what the zones are, and it's easy to get confused by it. And so the first thing I say is make it easy on yourself by just saying, right, I'm going to use this system and this system works for me. And as long as you've got a reason for sticking with that system and it makes sense to you, that's the reason to do it. It's there to give you some extra data to make your training make more sense to you almost. So pick one and stick with it. And I'm happy to talk about what I do, but that's not to say that what I do is the best way. It's just the way that I've picked to work with my athletes. So what I do is I get everyone to go with a 20-minute flat out test on the bike, and we can talk about that for the run as well. We use the bike number, then you take the average heart rate for a 20-minute test. And what I do is actually use that average heart rate over the 20-minute test. I know different coaches have got slightly different ways of doing it, but I use that as your proxy for your threshold heart rate and say, if you can do that in training for 20 minutes, you can probably do that in competition in an hour. So it's a real good number. And I don't chop off the first few minutes because I think that kind of evens out the average. So start from the minute the gun goes go, and for 20 minutes you do a flat out test, and that's your functional threshold heart rate power. And then my advice to you would be to get a free Training Peaks account and then follow their online tutorials for how to set your zones according to that. So it's dead simple. They'll do all the maths for you, and it'll give you zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 and zone 4. And in basic broad terms, your zone 4 is your threshold training area. Your zone 2 is your aerobic training area, which is going to help you out if you're training for Ironman. Zone 1 is the recovery area where you're going to really limit yourself, and zone 1's really there to hold you back so that you don't go too hard during a recovery session. And zone 3 is a bit of a grey area between 2 and 4, so it's either there if you're training specifically for 70.3 distance triathlons, or if you're preparing yourself for a block of threshold training in particular. And I don't think heart rate training needs to get any more difficult than that, other than to say the key thing to remember with it is your heart rate is going to have a lag between when you start making the effort and when your heart rate responds. And that lag is usually about a minute to 2 minutes. So if you're doing hard 1 minute intervals, if I've got someone with a power meter, they can be working at, say, 120% of their threshold effort, but the heart rate will only just reach their threshold number during that 1 minute. And that's okay, but you have to accept that the heart rate is limited to kind of being accurate over longer durations, and the longer you're out there for, the more accurate feedback it's going to get you. But I would say get yourself online, read up about heart rate training. I'm happy to give you more guidance if you want to fire an email through to me. But in general, just logging the training that you're doing and recording the stuff that you're doing with some kind of data capture system, even if it's just your basic heart rate monitor, is your foot in the door to learning what it is you need to do to get better, and then take guidance from someone who can help you to just kind of put those mental demons to bed that what you're doing is actually helping you.
I love it, Rob. The mental demons.
I think that's been the key, hasn't it, Hels? That's the key with you. It's that sort of, the feedback is often, is what I'm doing right?
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes. Because it's a
heart
little
rate
bit
monitor
more.
helps, but
Yeah, definitely. Because it is a little bit more of a sort of grey area.
Yeah, it's a little bit more by feel, and it's I think it's good to have someone look over that and go, yeah, compared to your heart rate. I mean, I'm in the lucky position that I look at, hundreds of different people's power files and heart rate files, and I've often joked it's a bit like that scene in The Matrix where you're looking at that guy looking at the screen, making sense of weird numbers and graphs and stuff. But it does become a bit like that when you do it a lot and you do it for your job. I think when you're first getting into it, the temptation is to look at it and go, oh man, I just can't make any sense of this. It's something to confuse me. So if you're going to get into it to the point where you're going to be able to make sense of it and it's actually going to help you be confident that what you're doing is the right thing. I think that's the key.
And Rob, a question which I remember when I first started with a heart rate monitor, I didn't know the answer. You don't use it in the water, do you?
Well, no, that was always our advice back in the day, wasn't it? Don't swim with them on. But I think technology progresses, and more I've got athletes now who have got various new heart rate monitors or additions to whichever GPS watch or swim watch they've got, and they've started swimming with them on. And I remember, we tried it, didn't we, back in the day, and you'd push off the wall and the heart rate strap ends up down in your shorts, and you're like, well, that's no use to anybody. But the newer systems seem to be, people are starting to get data from this. So I'm starting to get athletes send me files over and say, well, look, I'm trying to work out what my zones are in the swim and looking at my data. And it's actually quite interesting to look at that. So I think my gut says I think the pace data is more accurate for swimming. And I think it's more useful. And I think if you set your zones based on pace with like a CSS test, you don't really need that heart rate thing because the zones are going to tell us, or the CSS zones are going to tell us what the heart rate's going to tell us. But it's interesting to look at for sure.
I would be quite intrigued as to what my heart rate gets to in the pool.
I think it's interesting to look at it. Most people only ever wear them when they're in a race because they've already got the strap on underneath the wetsuit, And then you look at the data afterwards and go, I remember looking at one of mine from an Ironman race and seeing my heart rate being really high for the first half, and then it really dropped off, and you think, oh, did I just kind of chill out? Did I back off, or was it lack of excitement? And probably it's an accurate reflection of the fact you go off like a maniac and then you have to get your breath back and slow down a bit, which is how it feels. So,
and the anxiety of the race.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go.
So yeah, interesting stuff. There we go. So thanks for the question, Simon. Hopefully that answers some of your questions around heart rate training. And if you've got any more questions, fire us an email over and we'll do what we can to help you out.
Definitely. Shall we go on to the interview of the week, Rob?
Yes, our interview of the week is the wonderful and generous Laura Siddall, whose signed race kit you can win in our charity auction. Do you know she's written on hers, "Don't die wondering," which I think is the quote of the week. And it sums up her race this weekend, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So let's have a listen. Laura Siddall, hello, and welcome back to the Oxygen Addicts Triathlon podcast. How on earth are you?
I'm good. Thanks very much for having me back. I'm good. I'm not too bad. Body's not feeling too well. It goes through those stages of, oh yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm recovering, and then what the hell are you doing to me again? But yeah, no, I'm good, Helen. So thanks for having me back on.
Pleasure. Congratulations on 2 second place finishes in the space of a fortnight. That is pretty incredible. I'm going to ask you loads of questions about it, obviously, because there's a lot that probably people will find useful about how the heck could you go from 2 iron distance races in the space of a fortnight. But yeah, wow. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Yeah, not a bad couple of weeks, really. I just wish a couple of other people would stop turning up and ruining my party. I need to. People keep. Anyway, it'll happen. But no, super happy with the results. Pretty pleased with both my performances, and so sort of big step on and learning from last year. So happy with that, and yeah, just hope it's sort of now, again, that sort of next step on to keep improving and keep progressing for the next year. And so,
how different do you feel this time compared to 12 months ago when you had done the same, hadn't you? You did Wanaka, and then 2 weeks later you did Ironman New Zealand. Yeah. Compare the two. Not compare the two races, but in terms of how you're feeling almost at the same time following that second race.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Good question. Last year, the two races, while I had a second in Challenge Wanaka and then came to Taupo and got a fourth. And I was happy and I was pleased with those results, but I was also pretty upset. Well, I'm not sure it's upset or disappointed, because I felt like in both those races I'd missed a big opportunity and hadn't really capitalized on things that I felt I should have done. And that's all part of it. That's part of that learning. And I think I had to go through those races to get that learning, to get that opportunity to see that I hadn't sort of taken those steps. So, whilst last year, I was super happy with doing that back to back and those performances, there was kind of a real mixed feeling about it. Just a kind of what could have been or what if, and feeling. And I think the difference this year, whilst, second again in Wanaka, to Yvonne again, but then second in Taupo. And yeah, there's still learning and there's still things I'll take away from both the races in the last couple of weeks. And you still go back and you review. I'm already trying to rerun the race in my head and like, where could I have done things differently and how could I have improved and would that have affected the result? But I just feel, I think, a lot more happier and proud of the performances I put in and the way I executed those races, having taken the learning from last year, I guess, and just things we've been working on, but just more on, a lot. It's hard to describe it. A kind of satisfaction, although I'm not satisfied because I didn't win.
Yep.
But, just a lot more the confidence, and yes, I think that sort of pride in how I did take those lessons and put that into the two performances, I guess, if that makes sense.
You touched on confidence there. I guess that is probably a massive part of it, because you obviously then continued last season and you went and had an amazing performance in Roth. And I guess every time you do that, you can, your confidence builds, doesn't it?
It does. But you still have your doubts, for sure as well. And I think I'm going to make a sweeping statement here to the listeners as well. I think, as females, as women, if you have a bad training session or you have a bad race, that tends to be the thing that sticks in your mind, and it tends to sort of not necessarily haunt you. That's probably too strong, but that's what you remember. So you're sort of only as good as that last, when it wasn't a good performance, sort of thing. Whereas I think men, even if they have a bad race or a bad training session, they kind of forget it and they still remember the time when they were really good.
Yep.
And so have that confidence. So I think, as women, or me specifically, I have to. You do gain those confidences from having those race results, but because those experiences and having those opportunities, the more and more you have of that, it gives and builds that confidence, but it very quickly can be kind of dented as well. So it's hard to kind of, you have to cling on to those good opportunities and hope that sort of puts you on the right foot and you can build momentum, and that momentum then grows, and again, that with that spiral you continue to gain more confidence and that sort of thing. So those races were good last year, and then it carried on, and I had a great performance at Roth and was really pleased with that. But there were some sort of ups and downs again last year. A little bit again, I just sort of felt I was pleased with the year, but I felt that I hadn't probably fully capitalized on what my capabilities were or what I was doing in training into the race. But I think the last 2 weeks, the races, I've been pretty pleased with that. Again, like I said, still lots more to to learn and to develop and lots of details to work on. But that's the exciting thing. That's, when I know there's still room to improve again. And so hopefully then, yeah, I'm kind of another step up or a couple of steps up that ladder of confidence. So yeah. Sorry, lots of long-winded answers here.
We like long-winded. It's all good.
I apologise. I haven't had coffee yet this morning, so my brain's all a bit fuzzed over the place.
Laura, have you always been a machine on the bike?
Have I always been? Well, obviously I didn't really ride a bike before I did triathlon. So, since starting triathlon, I was a runner by background, but track running, so 400, 800, certainly not marathon running, and half marathons. But, you hadn't really ever, rode a bike as a kid, but nothing serious. And so first time was riding the bike sort of as I started triathlon. And I think it was the thing that just, I'm not sure it came naturally, but I just found that, yeah, I had a strength for the bike. And so it's always been probably the strongest part of my race as an amateur. And then sort of coming through now as professional. And we've still got lots of work to do on it. And I'm still making, little, again, sort of getting around to the details of how to actually ride the bike well on the terrain and manage that better. And then, now I think the last couple of years of racing, I don't think my bike ability has really come out in my races. Even to be honest, and this is going to sound really bad, but the race in Taupo, my watts were really low compared to what they should have been and what we were expecting. And I'll go back over that with my coach and see where we can make those differences. Now the weather is obviously an element of that. But I think what the exciting thing for me now is with my bike riding is that hopefully I'm at a place where rather than just, when you get on the bike and it's just as fast as you can to the end, but I've got more tools in my bag to actually mix it up a lot and be able to change the race depending on, yes, I can actually put in a extra big effort here if I, to try and derail someone off my wheel perhaps, or, I can, have the confidence that I've got that ability to play around with things a little bit more and be involved in an actual race rather than just, when you get on, it's just like, I just do what, I've just got to get to the end and I've only got sort of one option to do that. Again, does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Like,
Yeah.
I would, get on a race and I think it's the equivalent of you've been plodding for years and you only know sort of one pace and then suddenly you learn that you can actually race.
Yeah.
And that's it. So yeah, I absolutely get that. And
and it's little things, like playing around with the different cadences. So, what can I push at a lower cadence, or when do I need to use a higher cadence in a race? And I've got this climb coming up now. Am I going to be better doing a low cadence up the climb, or let's flick to a high cadence and still get the power out that way, and then cresting over and all that sort of thing. So it's and that's what makes it exciting because it was still so much to learn, and every course, like you said, every course is different. Or when you're just when you're riding around training, you're constantly looking at, okay, there's a little rise there and I can use that rise just to accelerate over, or how am I going to take this corner for the best line and all that sort of thing. So I think that's now kind of, yeah, the exciting thing with the bike riding. But yeah, to go back to the original question, it's funny enough, that's always been probably the strength out of the three things for me.
Yeah. And were you going into either of them with your eye on the bike course record? Because you managed that, didn't you? Both races this year in the past fortnight, and you've got the bike course record for both.
We didn't get the record yesterday.
Did you not? Am I lying?
No, I got the fastest split. Sorry, not yesterday, on Saturday. So I got the fastest bike split, but it wasn't the record because Lucy Gossage and I broke the record last year in Taupo, and Lucy claims that because she was a little bit further up the road than me. But last year was like just amazing conditions here in Taupo. This year's race wasn't quite as great conditions, so we had a a pretty strong tailwind on the way out to Reparo, which is a turnaround, and then a pretty brutal headwind on the way back, which just sort of, slows you down quite significantly. But did I go into either races think about the record? No, not at all. New Zealand, you really don't know what the weather's going to do, like we saw at the weekend. And, last year in Wanaka, it was ridiculously windy there. But this year the race was just, perfect conditions. And it was only probably in the second lap of the bike course in Wanaka that I suddenly kind of clocked onto the fact that I was going to be near, or there was an opportunity to get the record and by sort of quite a lot, and also to break that 5-hour barrier on Wanaka, which is, it's a real tough course. So to get under the 5 hours was great. And so, for the last 60k or so, maybe at Wanaka, I did have my eye on the record and was going for that as well. In Taupo, no thoughts on the record. I mean, that kind of went out the window when you saw the weather conditions for the day with the wind. But I still wanted, I guess, to have the fastest bike split with how my riding's been going. So I guess I had that bit of thought at the back of my mind. But it was, I guess as well, I knew we were taking time out of Meredith and Annabelle. We took maybe a little bit, not much out on the first part of the first lap, but coming back in at the end of the first lap and going through town, we somehow managed to take sort of a minute and a half out of them, which was over sort of 10k, which was crazy. And then heading out on the second lap, with the tailwind, I was thinking, well, we're not going to take that much time out of them on this section because everyone's going to be moving pretty quickly. But we got to the turnaround, and I think it got a split saying I'd sort of taken another 30 seconds off them.
Wow.
And then you sort of come back in on the last lap, and you got 45 k's into the wind, and I didn't think I was going pretty well at that time. So I was thinking, maybe if I can take another minute out of them, and that'll still be a pretty decent ride, and it'll still sort of give me the fastest bike split. And then we got to about I think it must have been about 10k to go, and there's sort of the last climb up to, there's a race course, and then you drop down back into town. And just before we started that last climb up, I got a split that they were only a minute up the road, and I was like, oh, holy, that kind of thing. And then I looked at the road and I could see them, and I was like, right, I am going to be first off the bike here, and I don't care. So at that point, it was reeling them in and caught them going into town and just went straight past them to the front. And I was like, yep, I'm gonna make sure I'm first in off the bike, and whatever happens in the marathon will happen after that. So that was kind of my thinking towards the end of the bike ride in that one.
How was the marathon?
Oh, they're always so pleasant. Yeah, I mean, it was, it's pretty cool coming into transition, 5 of us all together. And, I was first in off the bike, and then I was first out onto the run, pretty briefly though, because Meredith soon came sort of flying past me. And, I knew probably out of the 5 of us that were there together that, on paper, I was probably actually the slowest runner. And also you don't know what the legs are going to do having run a marathon 2 weeks earlier. So I mean, I just set off and was trying to find my form and my rhythm and my pace, and I was still running pretty quickly at the start, but soon enough, I went from first to fifth pretty quickly, and all the girls sort of gone past me. But I was sort of looking at my watch going, well, I'm kind of on my not limit, but this is kind of the pace I started when I raced in Roth, for example. So I'm pretty happy. But I mean, I did struggle the first lap in terms of I just didn't feel comfortable. I just didn't find that sort of I guess your running legs that you call them, or that rhythm. And so it wasn't a great start, but I again, like, using the last 2 years last year's 2 races as experience, and also in Wanaka, I knew that like the middle section of the marathon had been pretty dark for me, and I'd struggled in that section. So with Taupo being a 3-lap course, I'd kind of in my head beforehand made a conscious effort that I was really gonna be very present and focused on the middle lap. So that meant, going out on the first lap, I was making sure I was taking on loads of Coca-Cola, as well as sort of water and my other nutrition. But just using the Coke to like kind of keep your brain with it and your head in the game. And just, starting that middle lap, it was just like that conscious talking to yourself of going, like, you got to find a way to change your rhythm and find that rhythm, and whatever you need to do to try and break it up to change that pace, or to get into that rhythm that you need, you got to find. And fortunately, whether the Coke kicked in or whatever, I just felt that, I think in that middle lap, I suddenly sort of found a bit more freedom in my running. I don't think I actually started running any faster, but it was just probably more fluid and for less effort than it had been on the first lap.
Yeah. So at what point did you sort of move back up through the field? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I dropped to 5th, probably sort of within the first 5K or so. I think sort of most of the girls, when other women went past me, and then I caught back up to Yvonne, who is in 4th, around kind of, I guess, the 21-22K mark, so the halfway mark. Which was a boost, because that's normally been the point that, well, in Wanaka 2 weeks ago, that was pretty much the point that she went past me. But so to catch sort of back up with her, and she's great. She's such an amazing athlete, and she gave me we had a bit of a chat as we exchanged places again. And
what did she say to you, Laura?
Well, so when she overtook me at the start of the race, she said, "This was an effing stupid idea. I hate you, and I think we need to talk about this after the race," or something along those lines. And she promptly sort of carried on running away from me, and I'm like, "Well, you seem to be doing all right." No, she's and then so then when I caught back up to her, she was just like, just, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was encouraging. It was just like, go and get them kind of thing, and you're running well, and go for it. So that was about the halfway mark, and then excuse me, coming back into town, so at the end of the second lap, I was getting some splits that I was closing in on Annabelle and Meredith, who were, well, they kept swapping places for second and third, so I wasn't quite sure who was where at that point. But then coming back at the end of the second lap, again, you sort of come through town and do a turnaround, so you get an opportunity to see where they are, and I was obviously a lot closer to them on that end of the second lap than I had been at the end of the first lap. So as I set out on the third lap, I could actually see them, I don't know, 200 meters up the road, because they had cyclists with them who were nicely wearing bright orange vests. So
always helpful.
The crowds ahead. And also at this point you're going through town, and there's loads and loads of support out on the roads, and so you're getting loads of feedback from people going, yeah, they're only just up the road, you're going to catch them, you're looking, all that sort of thing. And the next minute, someone, as I ran past someone, they said, Annabelle's walking, she's, and that sort of thing. And then the next minute I was passing Annabelle. So I think that was around the 28K mark, perhaps.
Yep.
And then it was like kind of Meredith was just up the road, and I caught her on this sort of long hill up at around, it must have been like around the 30K mark or so, maybe 30.
Did she say anything to you?
So at that point, we've raced the last couple of times, and in the 70.3, I was closing her down, but not quite close enough. And then so suddenly seeing her up ahead, and I could tell she wasn't in the best running as I know she can, and as she can as her ability sort of thing. But as I went past her, and I keep saying this and then going, oh, don't put this out on air because my coach will hear what I said and I'll get into trouble. As I ran past her, I did say to her, I said, come with me, Meredith, come, I wanted to help, she's a good friend and I know you're racing. But she's so such a legend of the sport in this and at Taupo. And so I said to her, come with me. And I thought, and we'll race, if we run, it'll be what it'll be at the end if she's come with me, but I'll get her to the end sort of thing. And she just said, yep, I'll come with you as long as I can sort of thing. But I think she'd already, I passed her on that hill and then sort of didn't really look back after that. I mean, I knew I was likely not to catch Jocelyn. I knew Jocelyn was quite a way ahead, but that still doesn't stop you trying. And Paul Buick, one of my coaches from Purple Patch, he was on the sideline and he was like, you've still got to keep your foot on it because you never know what's going to happen at the front of the race and that sort of thing. And to be honest, I don't think there was an option of changing pace anyway, in terms of slowing down or anything. It was just kind of, you've got to keep moving at that point. And, I still didn't know if Meredith and Annabelle behind me, if they were going to, Meredith's a tough competitor, so was she going to have anything to pick up for the last 6K or 7K? And Annabelle was walking, but she's a great runner. I didn't know maybe if she finds a second wind or whatever. So you're still focusing on heading forward or facing forward and just trying to get to the finish line. And that last, it's, I don't know, 6 or 7K from the turnaround. It was a long way of being sort of knowing you're chasing the leader, but also that you're still being hunted as well kind of feeling, and just hoping. Again, I didn't know still what my body was going to do, like whether it was going to get to a point and say, yeah, thanks very much, I've had enough now, just crawl to the finish line. So yeah.
Have you actually allowed your body to chill out over the past 24 hours? Is it?
I went for a ride yesterday, so the day after the race. Nothing big, but just actually it helps recovery. So just an hour or so spinning my legs and that sort of thing. Probably not planning on doing anything today. And the next few days I'll just see how I go. It might more just be cycling to the coffee shop for a coffee. It's hard. Like you obviously your body needs to recover. But I almost don't want it to shut down too much because then it's just even more painful to try and get it moving again.
Yeah.
So after Wanaka, because I knew I had this race coming up, like the next day I actually rode for like 3 hours.
Really? That's what I want to know actually. What exactly? Talk us through what would it have been? I want to say 14 days, but it might have been 13 by the time you finished a race between Wanaka and Ironman New Zealand.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't really think about the second race. Literally, all the focus on the first race, and the first time you start thinking about the second race is literally like sort of, the hours after you've crossed the line at Wanaka. So for me, so what I did, so the race was Saturday, so on Sunday I actually rode for, like I said, about 3 hours. I actually did it broken, and that's just because of the awards at Wanaka are sort of a mid-morning. So I rode for an hour first thing in the morning, or not first thing, but in the morning. And actually surprisingly felt pretty good on that ride.
You're probably like the only one there in Lycra going, no, sorry, I'm just off again for another ride after this.
yeah. But you know what? Wanaka's just so beautiful, and it was such a gorgeous day. And you're out there, and the sun's just hitting the top of the mountains, and I guess it makes you feel alive. But
it's as much mental as physical recovery.
It is, yeah. So I rode for an hour in the morning after the race, and then we had the awards, and then I rode for another couple of hours in the afternoon, and that was probably the worst bit. Um, and then so what we did in the 2 weeks, it's like I said, you kind of gotta, if you stop once you've had a race and you've put your body through that event for so many hours, if you stop cold turkey, your body just shuts down too much, and then it's even harder to get it going. And so between the two races, you've got 2 weeks, so you've got to get that balance between giving the body time to recover, but not letting it know, but keeping it going as well, and so not shutting it down completely. So I guess we almost tapered after the race. So I did that, so that 3 hour ride the next day, and then you sort of bring the body down for a day or two, and then let it recuperate and generate. And then you're just doing, I'm just doing sessions that have, I guess, a little bit of work in them. Not huge, nothing huge, a little bit of intensity here and there, just to, again, keep your body knowing that it's still got to be in the game. But then it's just, and then just trying to get as much rest as possible, and sleep, or if you're not sleeping, just, legs up and that sort of thing, and just trying to stay relaxed, not rushing around and doing too much. And you really don't, people kept saying, how do you feel? Are you recovered? And I was like, I don't know. I will have no idea. You literally have to just take it day by day and session by session, and just go with what your body feels on that day and what the body gives you. So, like one day in between those 2 weeks, I rode my bike and I felt absolutely great. And I was like, yep, this is good. I think, I'm bouncing back, legs feel great, the numbers are good, and I finished on a real high. And then like the next day I went on the bike and I felt like an absolute pile of shit kind of thing. And I was like, okay, no, you're not quite there yet. But you just can't let that affect you, just because then I then went, felt rubbish on the bike, and then I went for a run in the evening, and at first I was probably like, not sure this is going to be much fun, and actually felt pretty good on the run, sort of thing. So it's the same, and normally I guess when you train, you really can't sort of judge yourself, and you just have to stay very like, we'll see what the body gives me today, we'll see what the session gives me today. If the legs are good, great, we'll bank it. If they're not, that's fine, we're not going to worry about it, we'll just move on. Might change things around a little bit or not. So it's kind of that sort of thing. And just trying to, keep on top of the basics, like keep your eating healthy, and so your body's getting the protein and that sort of thing to recover and repair, and keep the rest and the sleep and that sort of thing. And, it's... To be honest, it's not hard when you're in a place like Wanaka. I mean, it's so beautiful. You just have to like look outside the windows and you just feel relaxed anyway. So, and I stayed a week down in Wanaka to train, because it's just, I love it down there, and it's easier training than then coming up to Taupo. And so I think that probably helped from a mental refresh as well.
Did you find the mental side of it a tiny bit harder to switch off because you had such a close finish with Yvonne in Wanaka? Did that end bit just keep on going through your mind?
It did, for a little while, and just, and other parts of the race going, where could you have done things differently? But I had was really good. I had a really good chat with Paul Buick, who'd been in Wanaka as well, and he's one of our Purple Patch coaches, literally sort of the next day, so on that Sunday after the race. And that was a really good debrief of the race, so picking out the positives, picking out the details, picking out the learning, that sort of thing, what we're going to work on long-term future, but then what we can play around with for the next 2 weeks. But I mean, we weren't going to change anything drastic in the next 2 weeks, but just more like, yep, this is what we're learning, this is how the race went, this is where and now sort of move on. And then the same day, I had a really great chat with Matt Dixon, my coach, who was in the States, obviously still. And again, much the same, just kind of going over the race and reviewing it and that sort of thing. And then, looking forward. And it was really good to do that, because there were two great conversations. But it kind of put that race is gone and it's behind, and yes, we're going to take the learnings, but we're not dwelling on it now, and now it's eyes forward onto Taupo. So yeah, it meant that at the 27 seconds or the end of the race, yes, I thought about it for a day or so and let it sort of fester, but it was all positive. It was all kind of more motivation and energy driving me forward. And then once I'd had those reviews with Matt and Paul, it was like, yep, that's done now, and we're on to the next.
Love it. Honestly, I love it. It's just been such an amazing 2 weeks. So, Laura, okay, do you want to go back to Wanaka and win the thing next year?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I obviously wanted to win it this year. So yeah, I would love to win that race for sure. Yeah. So hopefully it'll be on the calendar for my race plan next year.
Excellent. What else is coming up this year, and are you hoping to qualify for Kona? I did spot that Yvonne van Vleuten has said you ride so well in the winds that you'd be amazing there.
What's coming up for this year? I'm going to pass on that one at the moment. We've got a few options for the plan, and I will talk about those. But a lot of it was going to depend on how this sort of 2 weeks went in terms of which direction we went in. At the moment, I'm quite enjoying just going. I'm not going to do anything for a few days. Probably go and visit some friends in Sydney or something like that, and actually get back to Christchurch as well for a bit. I am entered in Ironman South Africa, which is the 2nd of April, so kind of 3.5 weeks away. And that was kind of we'll see what happens in Taupo, and we'll enter that in case. And I think, although, I mean, things are always subject to change, that it's likely I won't be racing in South Africa now.
Yep.
But we'll see. I mean, not shutting any doors on that one. There's a few other options. So Kona, let's discuss that one first. Yes, I would love to race in Kona. It is the World Championships for Ironman, and for the brand, and it is sort of the pinnacle of our sport from that respect. And I would love to have raced there at some point in my career. Am I going to chase points around the world to get there? Probably not. Or not over the course of the year. I think we might play the lottery on, I think I'm probably on the borderline now at the moment with where my points stand after Saturday. But it's early season, so there's a lot of races to come and a lot of movement that will happen around on the points chart. So we'll see what happens with that. I am going to come over to Europe for Northern Hemisphere summer and hopefully race a lot of the Challenge Series races over in Europe. So hopefully head back to Roth, but also the Challenge Championship.
Yes, which has a nice little pot there, doesn't it? A nice little bonus pot.
It does, yeah. And I haven't, and I'll do a series of the challenge races over Europe over the Northern Hemisphere summer. I need to look at those races over the next couple of weeks and see which ones I'd like to do, and then sort of develop that plan a little bit more detail. But that's kind of a rough idea, and then I guess we'll see where we are sort of middle of the year as to where we are in the points for Kona and things like that, and make a decision from there whether I put in another Ironman branded race or not, and see what happens from that. So yeah,
it's so exciting.
It is quite exciting.
Yeah.
No, it's whilst I have a rough idea of how the year is going to look, but there's definitely no set plans. And then, like I said, suddenly we started talking about Ironman South Africa, and now there's been a few other races pinged in there in the last few days just to see what might happen and things like that. So it's some people, I'm normally quite a person that I kind of like my structure and I like to know what's happening in advance, but I'm quite excited about the different opportunities that potentially I could have this year, and the different doors that might open or the different paths you can go. And for me, Kona is great, but there's
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 other
so
stuff.
many races around the world that are just awesome to do. And I know, and I'm going to say this to you guys in the UK, like the New Zealand races, be it Challenge Wanaka, be it Ironman New Zealand, they are really another level. Now, I will put a disclaimer in there. I haven't done the races in the UK, so I can't compare.
You've not done Wales, Laura, have you?
I know I haven't done Wales, I haven't done Bolton, Staffordshire, and all those, so I can't compare to the UK Ironman team or the challenge races over there. But do you know what? The New Zealand teams, and again, like I said, be it Challenge Wanaka, being Ironman New Zealand here in Taupo, they just put on amazing events. It really is. They really are the best run events that I've been to as I've raced globally, probably with the one exception being Challenge Roth, out of that. But there were quite a few Brits that were in racing here in Taupo. Jack Schofield, won his age group, so he's got his ticket to Kona. I'd seen him over the summer in Europe, so that was kind of quite nice just to see him briefly and win last night. So, and he made the trip over from the UK. So, if you listeners over there are looking for some different races and put it in with a bit of a holiday, I know it's hard because it's training through the winter months over there. But I really do recommend the New Zealand races because they just are, they're incredibly well put on and organised and just have an amazing atmosphere and just, stunning, beautiful places, really. And that's it. I'm lucky that I can almost, I guess, pick the races that I want to do around the world and just pick cool places to go and race in.
So, Laura Siddall, runner-up at Ironman New Zealand, runner-up at Challenge Wanaka, and the voice of the New Zealand Tourism Board.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to go back and ask for payment now.
I would. I think you should. But anyway, we will watch and follow the rest of your season with excitement, and really, really well done for the past fortnight. It's been really cool to follow from over here, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
Great to get Laura back on the show, Rob, wasn't it?
Legend. Yeah, legend. And good for you for jumping on it and getting it done so quick. And thanks very much to her for doing it in sleep deprivation with no coffee.
No coffee, no sleep, and probably not even any time to even process what had happened.
Yeah. Good. I like that though. I like the insight you get into someone's mind when it's obviously still quite raw and unprocessed for her, isn't it?
Yeah, because you won't really have. Well, as she said in the interview, she didn't.
Hadn't talked to a coach yet.
Well, no, I wasn't going to say that, but it wasn't. After Wanaka, it was very much like, right. Well, I can't think too much about that and what's happened. Yeah, okay, fine. I will think about it for a day, but then after that, I have to focus on, getting prepared for Ironman New Zealand. And then obviously Ironman New Zealand would have been all day Saturday, Sunday. Your mind's probably a blur. So then I caught up with her. You're going to the awards, all that kind of stuff. So then I caught up with her first thing Monday. So she wouldn't have been able to even process much of it at all. So yeah, really, really good of Laura to take the time to speak to us after such an impressive and incredible fortnight.
Sure is. Cool stuff. Right, let's go for a little bit of news, shall we, Helen?
Yep, so this is with the Holcombe half. So remember that if you want to enter the 70.3 that Holcombe is at Holcombe, then you can use the code FREEMALET or FREEFEMALET to get a free high quality t-shirt. So usually you would have to pay for them, but if you go to osbevents.com and sign up, then you can get a free high quality t-shirt as a listener to the Oxygen Addict podcast.
Nice stuff. Right, now, first bit of news that we've seen, and I'm not sure I quite understand this yet still, Helen, but if you're a Japanese person and you go to race at Ironman Canada this year, they're offering an additional 20 slots to Kona, but only for Japanese nationals in the race. Isn't that
random? Yes, that's exactly.
I was hoping we'd have more information, but all we've got is the press release from Ironman that just says I'm not sure we have a huge Japanese listenership.
No,
Be
but
honest.
I just thought, isn't that
Yeah.
random?
And I wonder why. Obviously, a race organiser's got to buy Kona slots off the Ironman Corporation people. So I wonder what the thing is to try and get Japanese people to Whistler.
Don't know, but I particularly like the second bit of line there, Rob, which says, "Live in Japan and still undecided on your A race for 2017? Keep it simple and with a solid training plan and a 10-hour direct flight from Japan to Whistler, British Columbia."
Only 10 hours direct.
Yeah. So there we go.
Wow.
Yeah, that one bit random, but I just thought that's quite random, so we should include it. And then Rob, this week, if you Google Brownlee's Yorkshire Tea, there's a really really funny advert that
This
comes
is
up.
great,
So.
isn't it?
It is.
You've
very
got to
funny.
love that. You've got to love that they're advertising Yorkshire tea. That is fantastic.
Yep, it is good. So Google Brownlee's
I'll
Yorkshire
retweet
Tea.
it. That's what I'll do. I'll retweet it on our account, and people
Yeah.
can have a look at it because I was watching it earlier and just giggling.
Isn't
The
it
pair of them
funny?
had a right laugh doing it as well, didn't they?
Yes, they had to run through the Yorkshire Tea factory in tri-kits, which sounds a little bit random. Anyway, Rob, the other bit of news I have is that there's going to be a Women in Triathlon event at the Giant cycling store in London
Awesome.
on Thursday, the 16th of March. Starting at 6 o'clock. If you want to get involved, then go to eventbrite.co.uk and you'll find details there, or you can Google Giant St Paul's Women in Triathlon event. And basically, Rob, it's going to be brilliant. Okay, so they've got a panel. I'm going to be helping out
I
with
was
this
going to say, is
panel.
this the one you're doing?
Yep.
You're there on the panel, so you get to see Helen live in person, the wonderful Helen Murray. Are you like chairing it or something?
I'm going to be chairing the panel. Yep.
Love it.
Yep. So coming along is Catherine Jameson, Heather Sellers, Jane Hansom's going to be there,
Cool.
Ruth Purbrook, Eddie Brocklesby is going to be there.
Oh, love her. She's brilliant.
Yeah. Gillian Sanders, another ITU athlete.
Yeah.
So there's a load of really inspiring women who are going to be involved. They're going to have transition demos. We'll be having a big sort of panel discussion. They're going to have demos from trainers, so footwear, wetsuit fitting, and basically you're going to be able to mingle with everybody, talk to the athletes, talk to different brands, and it's all free. And there'll be loads of tips and advice in a Q&A session as well. So it's Thursday, the 16th of March at 6 o'clock at Giant Store St Paul's in London.
Nice one. Thursday the 16th of March. Oh, I wish I could come. I'm not a woman in triathlon, but it sounds brilliant.
It should be good. It should be
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, looking forward
Good
to
stuff, mate. Really exciting stuff.
it. I think so.
Cool beans. Well, that pretty much just wraps up our show for this week, doesn't it?
I think it does, yes. Nice.
I would like to say an official thank you to Kate Pearce and Pete Price for nursing me back home on Saturday.
No.
I went out for my first long bike ride on Saturday, and I exploded after about 2.5 hours. You know when your body just goes, I am shutting down now. You are now going to sit on the side of the road and you'll eat a handful of gravel because it's what you've got with you. I got completely dropped by the group and I thought, oh, that's okay. I'll just roll on back. And I was like, I don't know where I am. I've forgotten how to ride a bike. And Kate came back for me and nursed me back to the group, and then Pete peeled off and rode back with me, and we had a nice chat. But I looked back and I suspect we maybe rode back at about 7 miles an hour.
Oh no! You didn't have the emergency Mars bar in your pocket? I take it.
I had about 6 Chia charge bars in the back pocket, and I ate them all one after another and was still hungry and had to stop and buy something to eat. It was just like my body has forgotten how to process calories when I'm riding. Running, I'm fine. I was just, when you're riding with people who are much stronger than you and you're out of shape.
Yes.
And I knew I was going to get my backside kicked, and that was kind of why I went. It was like, come on, ride out hard and suffer home. And I'd forgotten how painful it is. It's just...
I'm glad it happens to you too, Rob.
I was just destroyed.
Well, you
I was
know, like,
weeping.
like I said to you when I had to ride back from work a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, honestly, it's like 18, 19 miles. And after 10, I was like, oh man, I need to get the train. I can't do
Yeah.
this.
I'd done that before on the ride home from school when it was a 30-minute ride and I had to stop at a petrol station and eat 3 Mars bars. You just think, yeah, all of this knowing about diet and nutrition is great until you completely mess it up, and then you just eat your own shorts if you had to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm on the comeback trail. I'm out and riding. That's the first step, isn't it? It can't get any worse than that, right?
No, it can't get any worse. It cannot get any worse. And Rob, I don't think the weather will get any worse than it was over this weekend. Well, Saturday was nice, actually. The day that you would have ridden
Saturday was lovely.
was very,
yeah,
very nice.
Saturday was warm. Sunday, I was basically just doing
Hiding.
dive bombs with my son into the swimming pool, going, looks horrid out there. I think we're going to stay inside and stay in the pool.
Totally. Avoid it.
We got asked to leave the pool in the end by the lifeguard because we'd stayed through 2 of the family fun sessions.
Really?
Yeah, our hands were all wrinkly. His lips had gone blue. It's like, dude, we're really going to have to get now. It's like, I don't want to. I'm having too much fun. So it's good.
Do they hand out those colour bands, and you're in the red session or you're in the yellow session or something, or is that like 80s?
Like in theory, I think that's what's supposed to happen, but they weren't really paying attention, so we just kind of overstayed our welcome a little bit, I think, really.
I love it.
But it was good. It was good fun.
Good.
And he did his first ever width of facing front crawl, which
amazing.
for a 5-year-old, you just like, you can do it. You can properly swim now. That's so awesome. And I don't mean that in like and now we're going to train you for the Olympics way. It's not like that.
I was going to say he's going to be the new Tom Bishop, isn't he?
It's so cool to see kids have confidence in the water and just be able to plow up and down, and it's just great.
Yeah. Oh, I like that story to finish off with, Rob.
Nice. Right, come on, let's wrap it up then. We could sit here talking all day, couldn't we? We often do. All right, so listen, thanks very much for listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. I hope it provided you with some inspiration to get out there and get some stuff done. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. Until next week, thanks very much. Train hard, be safe, and we'll see you again soon. See ya.